Men who are abused by women. And tried to tell someone. What was it like? No one believes you at first. Still get highly aggressive PMS when I talk about it on Reddit. People insist I must have done something to deserve it. The worst part is they reverse the dynamic in their head and I've been made out to be a horrible abuser when I never lifted a finger. Meanwhile I was getting hit on a pretty consistent basis and the emotional manipulation was extreme. That's the last bit of control they have. Controlling the narrative. They have accused me of so many terrible things because that's the final avenue left to accuse me. That's what abuse looks like in the end. The abuser burns it all down and then tells everyone that they had no choice and to stay away from the only person who can dispute the facts. It's like it doesn't exist. Spent years suffering mental torture. Getting arrested for things I hadn't done. Had my self-esteem picked away at until there was nothing left. The police ignored me and on one occasion disregarded solid proof to arrest me on her word that I had assaulted her. Been told that charging my ex for domestic abuse was not in the public interest. Long story short, I had a mental breakdown. Almost cut my throat. Punched my father. Went to jail and lost access to my son. My torture lasted for over 10 years and 4 of those were after I left. Men of Reddit, take my advice. It is better to spend your life alone than with someone who manipulates, attacks and slowly tears you apart piece by piece, because even though domestic abuse law is written for all, it is 100% against you. I was 15. Sexually abused by my manager at my first job. One of the biggest fast food joints. Not once, but 4 times. Someone spotted the abuse and reported it to corporate and she got a promotion. I quit and my father ignored it. Police said the company handled it. Men who are abused are ignored. Because it's not supposed to be possible. I never really spoke about the abuse I received. Mine mostly came in the form of gaslighting and being taken advantage of. The one time she gave me a black eye. People would ask what happened. I would say my wife hit me. And they would laugh or make some kind of witty remark. I look back at it all now and I still somehow feel it's my fault for being stupid and too eager to please instead of her being at fault. People are always on the side of those who tell the story. In my case there were many people who have been supportive, but there always been that but thing. Where especially women are trying to put bit of a blame on me, saying it was my fault because I should behave this or that way to not provoke things. And it's not that I have done any harm to my ex. We weren't meant for each other's, but with all that speep she have done to me. There was loads of speep she accused me of to excuse her behavior. And some women bought that excuses easily. No one believed me, so I moved away. Just deleted all forms of social media. Got a new job right away before the Rona that pays great, and I just live by myself in a small cabin with good internet connection. I've never felt so stress-free in my life. Apparently she went berserk on FB. Showing her true colors after I left, then everyone believed me. I was told to walk away from the relationship. I counted my losses. And left. I lived with her and was only able to pack about a quarter of my things. Not even. I lost perhaps about $4,000 worth of stuff. From an electric bike. My Xbox. 2 6-feet shelves worth of DVDs and games. Clothing. I had a buddy who was willing to let me sleep in his couch. I considered homelessness though. I also remember abandoning an Oz of pot there too. She obsessed over my income and I lost years worth of savings. If this is happening to you, peeping run. It may suck at first. But it is relief. Manipulated by her, and thank God my friends and her friends believed me. They shunned her for it. Now that I'm no longer living where it happened, I don't talk about it. Instead I just listen to others who might be going through the same thing and believe them. I dealt with the whole psycho package in my first wife. Found out after the split. I was guy 3 when we were dating. Which went down to just me for the first few months of our marriage. Then she started going out with her girls all the time. Her girls were the other strippers at the club she was working at. Started booking up with her coke dealer. Got me into several fights for no reason. Kept building up and getting worse. I lost weight because I wasn't eating. Lost my job due to depression sleeping. The one night I wake up to 2 cops standing over me in my bedroom. They dragged me out of bed. Cuffed me and arrested me for domestic violence. I had been asleep for 6 hours at that point. Spent the rest of the weekend in jail. By the time I got out, she had cleaned out the apartment, my bank account, and taken one of my cars. All mine from before the relationship. Couldn't do anything about it since it's a community property state. I lived in an empty apartment for months. Drinking. Barely functioning. I was a wreck and a shell of a man for months after this. Divorce proceeded immediately. I got nothing back. But did get my record cleared. I spent about 6 months going to work from 10 to 7. Then a bar until 2 a.m. every night. I was a terrible father to my daughter during that time because I just wasn't there. Lost all my friends. Lost all drive in life. And then I met my wife. She loves me despite my flaws and has helped me through all the damage. Let the wounds heal. And has given my life meaning. I'd be dead if it weren't for her. My daughter has a father because of her. 10 years strong. I was mostly emotionally/mentally abused by her. But she also hit me/threw stuff at me a few times. I used to keep quiet about it when I was in a relationship with her out of some asinine obligated feeling of trust and privacy towards her. But when we broke up a few months ago it all just flooded out. Telling other people about the facts that had transpired back then really opened my eyes to how horribly she treated me for a big part of the relationship. Luckily I have an amazing group of friends. So they were all understanding. Especially because they had seen her nasty side on a few occasions. Telling my family was a lot harder. They all had this image in their head of her being this perfect girlfriend for me. To her credit, she was perfectly able to act like it when either of our families were around. No matter what happened to you. No matter how big or small it may seem. Try your best to find somebody to talk about it. For me it helped me realize that she was abusive. That I do deserve better. And that I can do better. It's also just a relief in general to share your pains and burdens with people you love and trust. I have a friend who always showed up at the pub with bruises on his arms because she gets feisty when they argue. I later realized he was being abused, but he took it because he thought it was because she loved him that much. If the genders had been reversed there wouldn't have been any doubt in my mind. But because he's a 6 feet guy I was sort of blind to it and laughed it off as a joke. I will always regret that. Not my story. But a very close friend. She was an excellent liar and manipulator. She is a 5'2" white girl. My buddy is a 6'4" 300+ pound black guy. Important later. A lot happened over the 8 years he dealt with her. But the final straw was she backed him into a corner. Repeatedly hitting him. She eventually grabbed kitchen knife and attacked him with that. He blocked the knife and pushed her away from him so he could get outside. At that point she told him she knew she could get him to put his hands on her eventually. She called the police claiming to be the victim. When the police arrived they arrested my friend even after he told the police he had recorded the entire fight with his phone. The police refused to watch the video because according to them, he was obviously guilty. Personally I believe race and the fact he is a man played into why they arrested him. I bailed him out of jail 13 hours later. 3 weeks later he went to the prosecutor. And when the prosecutor watched the video, they immediately dropped all charges. My buddy thankfully has a new house, full custody of his 3 kids, and is far away from that woman.